welcome to today's event, Chia, Tiny Seed with Big Potential, Nutrition, Health, and Sustainability.
Chia seeds are one of the most sustainable crops in the world. I don't want to enter too much into details here, but just to let you know, agriculture in South America is very modern in the sense that they have learned from the wrong practices other countries are suffering from today. Intensive agriculture has high costs for the planet and for the growers too at the end.
Chia actually translates in Maya into strength. And they were carried by warriors because they were so tiny, but such substantive nutrition. And we didn't have to have the science then to know that. We just knew that it worked. It was so valuable, in fact, that it was used as a form of currency by the Aztecs during a period of time. Chia production is relatively new again, even though it goes back so many years. It sort of unexpectedly and enthusiastically reemerged in the late 20th century, and that's why we sort of knew of it as the chia pet, and then evolved into the buzz of the nutrition properties that it actually held. There's a lot to sort of unpack here in terms of trying to disentangle which part it is, and it has made the research compelling and interesting. But we have an opportunity, actually. It's made it a little confusing for ALA specifically. But with the sort of invention of this mechanical cold pressing process into chia oil to purify and to bring some of this more concentrated ALA, there may be the potential for new research at getting at a little closer to the question on the impact of ALA. And Dr. Bazinet will certainly be helping us with that.
And we thought the brain was immunologically privileged, so it kind of had its own immune system. So it was a really exciting time because we knew these omega-3 fats could regulate inflammation, and we knew there was a lot of them in this kind of skull that was isolated from the rest of the body. So I was really excited to get a job at the University of Toronto after that, and I've been working for about the past 20 years really on how does the brain get DHA and what does it do when it gets there? And I'll talk to you a little bit about how the brain gets DHA in the next slide here coming up. So there's two other things we have to know when we talk about DHA synthesis and whether we have enough going forward. Is that 1% really enough? And here's a study we just published, I think last year, the year before, where we got whole human brains, which is actually really hard to do. Everybody dissects little portions of the brain, but we found a brain bank. These things really exist, and we were able to get a handful of human brains sent to the lab, and we analyzed them to test exactly how much DHA is in them. And it turns out there's about 4 grams of DHA in our brain right now. And that's a lot. That's more than any other tissue kind of in your body. So the brain's just this beautiful, rich source of DHA. And you see that little test tube beside there with the little oil on the left-hand side of this figure? That would be about how much DHA is in that brain of ALA every day. And if we can convert that, I shouldn't have done this number on the spot, but we're talking about at least 15 milligrams of DHA synthesis per day. And so one thing you'll see is that 15 milligrams is higher than 4. Okay, so that's nice. If it was lower than 4, I'd be having a little bit of a different conversation with you. But, I recognize that the DHA doesn't just go to the brain, it goes to the heart, it goes to the immune system and other places. So one of the things we have to get a handle on is, what's that distribution of DHA in the body, and that 15 milligrams that we can make, if that's the real number, how much of that can get to the brain? So it's a question we have. We're happy that the number is greater than 4, but we need to work this out. Can it supply 100% of the brain DHA, or is it more like 75%? Can it offload some of it? So coming back to the low synthesis rate, yeah, the synthesis rate is low. I agree, it's 1%, but I'm thinking that the brain requirements are very low. And my working hypothesis is that we might have an opportunity here to synthesize a fair amount of the DHA. We do what are called preclinical studies. We used to call them animal studies, but it sounds nicer to say preclinical now, although sometimes people don't know exactly what you mean. And so we do these studies where we infuse labeled ALA or labeled DHA into animals, and we try and model the uptake rates. And then we eventually try and push them into humans, like that slide I showed you forward. And so we're kind of halfway in the middle here. And in animals, we can show that the ALA can supply a lot, if not most of the DHA to the brain, but we have to do the key translational studies. And I think we have to be careful with animal studies. You know, if you gave omega-3s to an animal, you could show that they cure Alzheimer's disease or the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. You've probably heard we've cured cancer 1,000,000 times in an animal. We haven't been able to do that in humans. So I think that's a fair point and a fair limitation of some of these animal studies. Omega-3s are a little different. There's, you know, this is nothing new here. There's some environmental issues around fish. There's a science paper here I've got in the bottom left-hand corner questioning the sustainability of that. Interestingly, this has really caught on in my colleagues. You can see the name, maybe David Jenkins, published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. So not a place where you would normally have an ecological study, questioning if dietary recommendations, and you can see this in the bottom corner, to consume fish are sustainable. So I think this is important, and these people have a fair point. And what I think we really need to learn in the next few years is exactly how much DHA we need, exactly how much EPA we need, and exactly how much ALA we need. Conversely, some of these things won't mix that well with salmon or things that I'm having for dinner or my sushi that I enjoy. So I think it's a false question, right? I think you can enjoy both, and I think they're both very, you know, fun things to look at and to eat and enjoy. And what we need to do, or at least what I need to do, is work on the precision of the answer of how much of these do we need, and you know, how much fish. How much of the EPA and DHA do you need from that? And what can the contribution of the plant sources be to that? Can it be 50%? Can it be 70%? You know, for the brain, I'm hypothesizing it's going to be a high number, but maybe for the immune system and some of the work we're not getting into, that, you know, we're only going to make up a smaller proportion of that.
Point document with all that information, and why smoke point isn't the only thing we should care about when we're talking about culinary oils. Scientific papers landing in, you know, where ALA is in cardiovascular health and others, as well as culinary inspiration, because, you know, at the end of the day, if it doesn't taste good and you have great ways to get it into your body, you're not ever going to benefit from the information that you absorb through your mind.